But the thing about a Navy SEAL that I've learned, and I've talked with a lot of you guys, as you mentioned, and it didn't really dawn on me till you said, Rad, you've talked to all sorts of these different folks, right? And it's like,
right.
Just upgrade to downgrade, like learn to educate yourself, to upgrade yourself, be that sharp tool that you need to be, and have all of your Swiss Army knife functions available if you're going to be a multi-tool of knowledge, and just be ready to, just move forward. I guess just leadership is how, growing your knowledge is so smart, right? There's so much physical that you can put your body through, but that mental toughness is really a big part of it.
Yeah. Well said. And, it's kind of interesting now, now that I'm retired, and I get asked a lot from, some of the companies that I work with or work for or invest in, et cetera, is this concept of, hey, I want my team to be elite like the Navy SEALs. Mm-hmm. And to your point, I kind of joke like, hey, are you going to invest 10 years of training into developing that SEALs team to be an elite sales team, or whatever, an engineering team, et cetera, because you can't just throw that out there, right? Like, we don't go out and go, hey, we're going to hire a Navy SEAL. We grow them. And everyone's so quick to forget that, it takes 3 years. 3 years to really create. And if you include, me walking off the street, or someone like a kid walking off the street, signing up, and then they go to boot camp, then they go to the indoc period, then they go to buds, then they go to qualification training, then they go to their platoon at a team, and they get in the back of the train, and they go through an entire workup period that lasts another 6 to 9 months with a 6-month professional development cycle on it. Dude, you're at 3 years. And then guess what happens? As I'm sure all your guests have already said, you get overseas, you're that brand new guy, and you don't really know anything. You're still learning. It takes time. It takes time to develop someone into, that fierce warrior, a tactician. It's, 3 years plus before you're on. It's literally like 3 years before you're really on your very first mission. That's a long time. And
you're still like the FNG.
Right.
Because guys have already gone through what you're doing. They've already spun up on a hot, deployment, and
100 times.
Yeah. And now it's you're coming in because Bill retired.
Right.
Right. And they all love Bill.
Yeah.
And now you're Bill. Right. You're the Bill's replacement.
Yeah.
And you're not Bill.
Right.
So I'm Kyle.
Right.
They're like, okay, hi Kyle, come on in. What are we going to name the new guy? And then it starts.
You're spot on. You're spot on.
Yeah. And when did you think, was it when you were in the military, you wanted to like maybe put knowledge to paper and write something or give those leadership thoughts? Obviously, and also, were you enlisted or officer?
I was an E-dog, dirty E-dog, enlisted guy.
So enlisted.
So proud of that, though.
So let's listen to the leadership of an enlisted dirty dog. Okay, E-dog, dirty dog. That's what I'm saying. All right, because
in tactical leader, sure.
Yeah, sure. Right. And your job on a team. So, for example, my father was an 18 Echo, which is a communications expert on a special forces group team. What would your job have been on the SEAL team?
Kind of like a foxtrot. Echo to a degree. It's a little different, but, my job in my early career was a breacher. And then it turned into navigator, and then it turned into targeting and intelligence and collection. And then, I was blessed. I had a wonderful career, and I haven't said that yet, but I was so blessed, man, Brad. I had a wonderful career, and very early on, as I look back, I got placed in positions of leadership. I think I was at I'm trying to do the math right now in my head. I think I was at the 7. I haven't really thought about this. I think I was at the 7-year mark. 7-year mark where I first, had a leading petty officer position. And before that ran departments, but, 7 years in, 7 years in, I'm in leadership roles, and then for the rest of my career, right?
Yeah.
And so to answer you, fast forward, in 2011, the Obama administration had tasked us with supporting operations in OEF, Afghanistan, with unconventional warfare. And so that's basically working by, through, and with, the local population to establish democracy in the region, right? And so I was a resident expert in the thought process because of my previous couple of years and what I was focused on in Afghanistan and in Southeast Asia. So anyway, I get tasked with this, and I step into a platoon that 2 weeks prior, before I come walking in the doors, 2 weeks prior to this, they had lost Captain America, fierce warrior, Brandon Looney, a rock star, a stud that everyone just revered and loved and looked up to. He was a phenomenal officer and leader that everyone just could not wait for him to have his shot at being, a platoon commander and being in his platoon. Like the boys loved him, and rightfully so. He deserved all of it. And so he gets shot down 2 weeks before this, what I'm telling you about, in Afghanistan, right at the end of their deployment, right? So now, fast forward a couple weeks later, the guys are still mourning their best buddy, their hero, their rock star, and they're fierce warriors coming off of a very kinetic and dynamic deployment in Afghanistan. And in I walk.
Right.
Hey, guys. Nice to meet you all. So I know some of you a little bit. Hey, remember where you just were? We're going to we're going to go back there. The people that just killed your friend, we're going to work by, through, and with them. We're going to help them develop infrastructure, maybe even some irrigation wells, roads.
Wow.
Help a security force, a police force. We're going to be eating with them, sleeping with them, trying to establish democracy in the region. The people that just killed your best friend.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, I'm like, in the months of time leading up into our getting ready to go, I'm thinking like, how do I change this vibe, this culture, this dynamic to go and then change a culture, a vibe, a dynamic in a foreign nation, right? Like that's what we're going to try and do is impact and change and shift a thought process, a culture. I was like, but first I got to just do that within our own group. Like, how do I do this? And, God shined on me, gave me incredible support, gave me an incredible team of self-led leaders. And I just started pulling stuff off the shelves of libraries. Like, hey, what can I do on organizational culture? Like there wasn't a lot on this subject. It's become kind of a hot topic nowadays, but there wasn't a lot back then on like, how do you change, mold, shift, define a culture of an organization, a culture of a team into what you want it to be. And so back 2011, 2012, I got really fascinated with that idea. And it kind of continued on till present day of paying attention to how groups do that, like how groups define what they want their culture to be, refine it, then implement it and build it, structure it out. And then once you're done all that, how do we sustain it? How do we scale it? And I got very fascinated with that idea of like, hey, you can do this if you're intentional. If you're intentional, you can do this. So that was kind of, a long-winded way of answering your question.
Like
yeah.
No, I wanted that. Yeah, that's great. And I think that our listener also enjoys that long-winded wraparound because you brought it home. And so the book that you have now, which is Leadership Is Overrated, I do have a question I just want to throw at you. Do you think that leadership from the top down or, removing that leader from the top changes leadership and what they've already implemented into the subordinates? So is it really just like can we just change a president? Can we just change the CEO and change the culture from that person? Or does it take the whole team to realize the culture shift?
Great question. Great question. Yes and no, right? Like, yes, we can do it if we're intentional, and it's going to fail. Because here's the thing, right? Like, everyone's got a default culture. No matter if you design and build it, improve it, sustain it, and it's great, or it's bad and it's horrific. Like, no matter what, we all have it. We have a default. So it's a matter of, hey, what are you going to do? How are you going to support and improve it? So to answer more specifically on the thought of, a leader, yes, you have to have a leader. You have to have someone, and that's what we talk about in our book, is giving that leader the principles to do what we're saying. Like, hey, you can now create and empower and entrust your teams to go out and crush it. And here's why, right? And I think, and I applaud the SEAL teams. We do such a great job at what I'm about to say. I wanted to name, fun little side fact. You'll appreciate this, right? I wanted to name the book "Kill the Leader." And then, so we're going back and forth with HarperCollins, who's our publisher. They're like, well, I don't know. This might be aggressive.
Like, we get it.
It might be aggressive. Dude, no joke.
Yeah.
We're going back. I literally have like an email thread somewhere, and we're going back, and January 6th happens.
Oh, yeah.
And the Capitol gets stormed. They're like, and like immediately the very next day, they're like, Kyle, we're going with backup title.
Oh yeah, we can't say kill the leader. Yeah,
we can't do that. It's too much.
Too close.
Too close to home.
Too real right now.
Too real.
Yes.
Too real. And but what I meant by kill the leader, and what we talk about in our book, is the Navy SEALs do an incredible training scenario, right? We're running out at a house or in an urbanized combat situation or training scenario, and we will walk up to the platoon leader, the troop chief, the platoon commander, etc., and we'll just whisper in his ear and like, hey dude, you just took a gunshot round to the chest or to the head. You're down. You're out. You're not allowed to say anything. Or sometimes you are allowed to say something, but you can communicate to your guys, or sometimes we'll be like, hey, you're completely down. And then he'll put his, he'll safe his weapon, lay down, and then we'll tell, the guy next to him, like, hey, this is what just happened. He can't talk. So he can't talk back to you. And in that moment, something very unique happens, right? The platoon gets to see as the next guy steps up into his place and takes over and assumes command or assumes tactical lead or whatever it might be. The whole platoon gets to see, like, hey, does Johnny step up and take over? Does he rise to that occasion? Simultaneously, what's also very important is the TAC lead or the commander gets to see, like, hey, how good of a job have I been doing mentoring my number two? Have I been really encouraging and empowering him and mentoring him? Or have I been just running the show, not just keeping everything close hold, rice bowling everything, and not allowing him to ever step up into a leadership role, never being self-led? And then everyone else gets to see it, right? So the whole platoon sees it, and after later on having beers or whatever, we all tease each other. But at the same time, simultaneously, you also get to see, hey, this guy's ready. This individual is ready, or let's tweak some stuff.
Yeah.
Or he's ready. Okay, great. Now, if he's ready, we can start focusing on the number three guy and start bringing
and take him out and let's see what number three can do without that guy. And what a great ladder system, if you will, of like, teaching how to lead. I completely agree.